Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Let's Grow Show. Today I'm joined by Brad Langdon, who is the founder of Doing Good Rewards. G'day, Brad.
G'day, Scotty. How you doing?
Good, good, good. Guys, today we're going to be talking about something super interesting, which is uh, a new methodology that Brad and his team have developed around raising money for good and doing it with a frictionless model uh, so that consumers have to make little effort to contribute to the charities of their choice. Before we rip into that, Brad, would you? In fact, I'll do it the other way around. Would you mind giving us a bit more about Doing Good Rewards and what you're about, and then we'll get to your background.
Sure, absolutely. So doing good rewards, it is a model, as you said, that is takes all the existing infrastructure that's out there of what we already do, but makes giving to charities automatic and part of our everyday life. So most of the audience would know of a mechanism that I've used a lot in the past for fundraising called top up and round up, where at the end of a purchase cycle, you would be asked, whether that's online or in store, would you like to round up to the nearest dollar, or would you like to add a little bit extra to your spend? So it might be topping up 50 cents or whatever you choose to do at that point in time. But of course, what you're doing there in my tech terms is that you're getting asked every time. And that in our terms is what's called a break point, where you might do it or you might not. So you might give a bid or you might not. And of course, you get frustrated of being asked all the time because you have to think about it and make a decision. So what
Hmm.
we've done is
Hmm.
taken what is out there already, and everybody would know that there's lots of deals and offers that you see in retail shops or online all the time. So it might be 5% off this on a Tuesday, or if you spend more than this, you get this percent off, or you get a few dollars back if you do this. We've taken
Hmm.
that and automated it so that it's all linked to your normal spending habits. So let's say to your credit card or debit card, and once that's registered, and everyone would know the banks have been tracking forever where we actually spend. So we hook into that technology. And effectively, when you go shopping, Scotty, all you have to do is buy something. So you just tap your card to purchase. When there's an offer there, we automatically give you the offer without you having to ask for it. You don't have to show anything. In my old days of loyalty, which I'll tell you about my background soon, but my old days of loyalty, we used to have to get people to scan a QR code or show a
Hmm.
membership card or do something to get something. Now it's all automated. So simply
At
by
every point of purchase,
you
pretty
get a
much.
saving. And what happens
Yep.
is that saving splits and a part of your saving goes off to your favorite charity. And it's all tax deductible. You get it back at tax time. So it's frictionless and easy.
Yeah, great, great. What was the key driver for kicking this off? Was it really about that the lack of ease with which consumers can consistently contribute to the things that matter to them, or?
Yeah, it was more, yeah, absolutely. But it was trying to find a way to reward everyone in the ecosystem. So so certainly I've had a long background, but one of my last roles was CSR consulting, which
Hmm.
is corporate social responsibility consulting, and always found that businesses were great at philanthropy, so sort of giving money, and philanthropy is amazing. So we want that to continue, but certainly the philanthropy figures are taking a dive at the moment because
Yeah.
businesses are doing it tough. And so
Hmm.
wanting to find a way where it wasn't just people gifting money and that was sort of the tick the box and it was done, but there was a real value exchange so that when businesses were supporting charities, they were getting extra business out of it and getting reward, and people were knowing about it. So that one of the problems is when a business gifts to a charity, sometimes it's as simple as it's on their website or in their financial report, but whether you know it every day of your life that that business is doing good is a bit hard. And there's some really great models, by the way, which I won't go into now, but that do ensure that us as consumers know that it's happening. But for many
Hmm.
businesses, they don't know about it. So I was trying to find a way where every day, everybody in the ecosystem wins. Business gets more business, consumers get more savings, but also know that their savings are supporting charity every time they do it. And then charities don't have to pay for fundraising, they just automatically get money. So that was really the driver, to try and get an ecosystem where everyone wins out of it and it's just
Hmm.
easy and frictionless.
Yeah, great. It's I suppose the data geek in me is really keen for, you know, I mean, I guess for the retailers involved, and you've got quite a network involved now of services and retailers that are involved in or helping consumers participate in this program by offering discounts and so forth. I think it would be, and I don't know whether this is been front and center of your strategy, but obviously I'm a geek, so I'm thinking about how interesting it would be for retailers to understand the causes that their consumers really care about.
Yeah, well, that's right, exactly. So the data analytics showed, where their buyers are heading because everyone gets a choice of their charity. And so also the side benefit for a retailer is besides it not costing any more and not needing to put any new incredible tech systems in because it all just runs off their existing payment gateway. So their
Hmm.
MID, it's called, their merchant identifier. So effectively, the offers can change every day, every hour, every moment. It's a real-time system, and therefore they can drive business at times when they're not busy or under the rules they want. But the best benefit is that every month they get the figures of all of us that donate because of a bit of our saving, and you would understand this better than most listening, Scotty. That little donation that you and I make, that actually applies to the social impact that the retailer makes without them having to give more from their bottom line.
Yeah,
Because they weren't giving an offer, we couldn't split it and we couldn't send some off to charity. So therefore, we wouldn't be able to do it. So without their involvement, we can't make that social impact. So they get to claim that social impact as part of their effect on the world, which is just amazing, which leads into that conscious consumerism piece that we're going to talk about. So
yeah. I think it's interesting if you look at the landscape of people participating in frequent flyer programs or point systems where you get a discount or a small discount for being a member, if you like, and therefore accruing points. In your view, and this does lead into the conscious consumerism, is there a shifting tide in terms of what value that lays instead of making a valid contribution to community, achieving a set of points that you may never access, you may completely forget about, and
yeah,
doesn't really
yeah.
have a
Well, look, there's
tangibility
working with.
to it for you?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. But look, there's always a balance of, and we believe fully that people should have part of their saving or points, as well as gifting part of their saving or points. But when you're doing it, and where you can convert those points to cash, it actually becomes a tax deduction as well. So in
Hmm.
effect, you're getting it back at tax time. So the idea is that doing good rewards is actually set up with two arms. It's a business, a social enterprise business, but it is a fully fledged charity foundation as well. So we have, for those that understand charity, we have PAF, PBI, and DGR status ourselves, which
Hmm.
means that we can collect those funds, send them off to small, large, onshore, offshore charities under the governance rules, and then we get to do the tax receipts. So we're about to do it next week. Each
Hmm.
first week of July, all of the shoppers get a summary tax receipt of all of their donations and they get it back at tax time. So you can imagine that the value of those points that sometimes disappear, that you asked the question about, turning those into cash and actually, donating and then getting it back as part of your tax return. How valuable will that be in the future? So those points
Yeah,
will,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's we are kind of overrun. I mean, I think particularly in Australia, and I believe it's the same in other markets. There's such a long tail of charities out there that we can get overrun with being asked to contribute to that and contribute to this and
yeah,
contribute to the left hand imbalance cricket club or whatever it is. So there's and what's fascinated me since being in the sector is the fragmentation in this space, and I guess fragmentation does two things. It reduces the potential impact of those organisations, but also increases the noise that consumers have to deal with when it comes to contributing to charity.
yeah, I agree. Look, it's a big space, and there's over 60,000 worthwhile causes in Australia alone. So
Hmm.
it's difficult to say which of those are the better ones or which do you choose. But really, what we believe is that everyone should have their own choice. so that people can choose where they would like to contribute to, because it is hard to find, hey, just the top few get all the dollars or whatever it might be. So we want people to be able to actually be actively involved and also change their charities at a moment's notice, so people can support what they want this week. There might be I was talking to someone just the other month about, we're well set up for the future for, say, disasters. If there's a disaster that particular week, people can click over their donation to a charity disaster, and that might just last for 1 week, 1 month, whatever it might be, and then it will turn back on to their existing charity. So you're right, so hard to pick who everybody as a conglomerate should be giving to. So therefore it's great when people can have their own individual choice in there.
And how would that? I mean, I work with Food Bank, Harvest, and Second Bite in Australia. How would they engage you to run a campaign at that time through
Yeah,
the
we're
platform for disaster recovery specifically? I mean,
yeah, well, they would just say, we've got a campaign, and then we would go to all of our client base. So we're what's called a B2B provider. So we're not a public brand. So it's not that you join Doing Good as a person. What happens is we run this mechanism to help other businesses stand out for what they're doing under their brand. So
right,
effectively, we go to that client base and say, hey, Food Bank have a disaster that they want to, would you like to have that opportunity inside your brand to your customer base? And then
right,
we will push it out there under their brand. So
okay,
therefore, yeah, it's a good way to get to a broad mechanism of a member base. And the kudos goes back to each company. So let's say it was your company, Scotty, and you
yep,
had 1,000 customers, and we were running a brand under your customer. We'd come to you and say, would you like to support this natural disaster? We'd push out a communications campaign through your app or your web portal that we're running for you under your brand. And then your customer base could make that choice themselves about whether they'd like to support that natural disaster or stay with the charity they're supporting. But then all of the kudos for supporting that natural disaster comes back to your company. So you get the social impact, and you can stand out for what you've done to support that natural disaster or that charity ongoing, without having to do too much yourself, because the platform does it for you.
And do you have I mean, I know you're established in Australia, but do you have your eyes set on international markets with this program?
Yeah, so we're very early days, and it's going, gangbusters already. But it is early days, and we're in Australia. We'll be in New Zealand later this year, but then the program is written, or the platform is written in .NET Microsoft Azure, so it's multilingual, multi-currency, and it
Yep.
works globally. So our dream for the future is that, you, mate, will be able to be, we have a program for you, or you're part of a program, and you're traveling anywhere in the world. I don't know where your favorite spot is, but let's say, we talked about the US. So you're in the US and you tap a card and get a saving there. It still splits the saving, and part of it still comes back to your home charity in Australia. So that's how the mechanism will work.
Oh
So
wow.
for each country you're in, as you travel around, you're getting savings everywhere you go, but you're still supporting your home charity that you've selected.
Okay. Okay. Great. And so
Yeah.
it's just set up for charities, not for community groups per se.
No, it works for community groups. So it works for not-for-profits who don't have DGR status. So we do support for some sporting clubs and different things. But
That's where I
the
was going.
difference
Yeah.
is that we can't do a tax deduction. So
Of
effectively,
course.
let's say you're a member of your local footy club, and we run a program for the footy club, and you want to support that. Your savings can still go to you, and the split that you choose to go to, in that case, let's call it a community benefit, not a charity benefit, that can still go to the local club. It's just that at tax time, that's not tax deductible. So we can't do a tax deduction for that part of the contribution. But
Yeah. Okay.
it still is a great way to support, not-for-profits and local community causes on an everyday basis. Our dream is that, and it's a big dream, but everybody in their normal shopping and their everyday life in the future will in some way be supporting somebody in need just through normal shopping.
So just to play it back, here I am doing a standard shop in a regular retailer. There's a discount being offered. I've elected the proportion of that discount I want to give to my charity. Can I elect multiple charities at once or one at a time at this stage? And is there a roadmap? For instance, could I support my local sporting club and, food bank, for instance?
Yes, so you're right. There is well, it's already developed, but we haven't turned it on yet. So
Okay.
in the early days, we wanted people to choose one at a time because, it will take some time to build up the mechanism, but it's growing fast already. So in Australia, there's over 1,600 in-store merchants, 600 online,
Wow.
100 gift cards, all the movie vouchers, et cetera, tickets, et cetera. So it's growing fast based on the old loyalty partnerships that we've had in the past. That's a bit about my background, but
Yep.
um, it's growing fast in that mechanism. But the idea is that the I'm a bit geeky like you, so we wanted the communication, because every time you tap your card, Scotty, you get a notification, what's called a notification or a ping to your phone that'll say,
Mm.
"Hey, Scotty, you just saved whatever it is." It works it out for you. You just saved $5, and it's looked at your own profile, and you might say, "Every time I get a saving, I'm going to send 10% or 20, let's say 20% to my favorite charity." So it'll say,
Hmm.
"You've just saved $5, and $1's gone to your favorite charity, and $4 will be back in your account in the next week." So it's a
Mm.
weekly rotational cycle of the money moving around. So
Yeah, it's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, it's a love it. You actually get a bit of a dopamine hit to the brain, so you get that
Hmm.
nice warm and fuzzy feeling as you're shopping, which is great.
Mm.
And we take care of it all. And of course, that the donation part is tax deductible, which I know with Roundup and Top Up that I've done a lot of. That often you don't keep track of those little donations; you just forget them. Whereas we
Yes.
make sure nobody forgets it, and therefore, even if you do, you're still going to get a summary tax receipt at tax time, adding
Yep.
up all your donations for the year. So it's a great
But I could
mechanism.
also see milestone shares. Like I've been shopping for the last 3 months, and I've raised, I'm making it up, $500 for food bank just by doing nothing. I mean, it's like, this is my weird brain. Doing good rewards is like we're doing so little can mean so much kind of territory, and that is exactly the
Yeah,
proposition, right?
yeah, it is. We want people to feel you've nailed it. We want all you're a little part of something much bigger. And so in the program that you get to see a thermometer of how the donations with you and who else has chosen your charity group, how that's tracking. And
Oh,
then
awesome! Yeah.
yeah, we have a communications, which when you hear my background, you'll know there's lots of, this is all lots of elements of lots of different businesses sort of coming together to amalgamate. But there's
Hmm.
a comms platform built into it so that you get a little video update from the charity at the moment every couple of months, and that'll move to every month in the future, so that
Hmm.
you hear what's going on with your money and you get a real in touch basis of what's going on, and then you get this nice feeling which you alluded to there about how much you've done. But we make sure you know it by giving you a little, we call them a little success video, where you actually, you
Yep.
get to the end of a dollar handle in charity terms, or we call it a cause. You get to the end of a cause, and the dollar handle might be $5,000 to achieve this. And then you get a little success video when you all do that together. And it's like, yes, we've achieved this together. So we want people to actively feel good about their contributions and know what's going on, and then automatically encourage others to be involved. And also the system automatically makes life easy for you, Scotty. So if you're busy like you
Mm.
are, you finish that cause, the next one of the same type automatically drops in behind, so that
Mm.
you don't have to even change your cause or do anything, although it's real time, so you can click on it and change it anytime you like. But most people just sort of leave it and get that nice warm and fuzzy every time they're shopping and saving.
Yeah. Hayden. Hey, Hayden. How you doing? Good point, mate. It's a great program. I know you've been in consumer goods for a very long time. In fact, that's where I met you. I believe it was 1895 we met. And so I know you could see the value of such a program. Great comment. Anyone else that wants to comment, don't forget that we've actually given you the opportunity to get on stage and talk. It is a little bit tricky. We're running multi-channel, but there is a link in the comments on LinkedIn that will tell you exactly how to get to the StreamYard app, and then you can get up and use your voice. Now, I do want to hear about this background because we keep referencing it, but I feel like I just need to turn my camera off just for a minute. So I'm ready for this. Brad, okay, cool. I think I'm good. All right. All right, and all right. Let's hear about your background.
Sure, and then we'll get into conscious consumerism as well, eh?
And
But
go, Brad.
all right,
Go, mate.
okay. So, look, like most, I started off with a very corporate. Well, actually, I started off in government, and that was frustrating, and then into a corporate, a multinational sort of career, and moved around in various. Look, I guess my basis is I'm a business analyst by trade, but having done that, I've moved around in a lot of sectors inside corporate, from training to marketing to. Well, I've got a bit of a tech background, so operations and
Mm-hmm.
programming. Anyway, look, got very frustrated in the corporate career, just the time it takes to get things done and death by committee. So moved on, and
Yep.
I always had some hobby businesses on the side, even when I was doing that as well. So, but then
Mm-hmm.
moved into my own ventures, and I guess most people would sort of call me a serial entrepreneur because I've sort of dabbled in so many things, including a couple of software development companies, events, a couple of event companies, loyalty, which is where this idea came from. So a company called Pegasus,
Yep.
also a communications company. Anyway, look, lots of different types of things, which have all led into my love at the end was doing CSR consulting, because while I was doing any work, I was always volunteering, whether that was for community organizations, even sports clubs, or doing different roles, or volunteering for charity, or, giving services and support. So in the end, we all work, don't we, for money, but my love is, seeing others be supported and helping others in need. And so I
Mm-hmm.
always got frustrated with CSR because a bit like I was alluding to before, like a lot of the big guys, and this isn't the right. I mean, because there's so much good money going to support charity, but a lot of times it was a bit of a tick the box. We've got to be seen
Sure.
to be doing it, not that it was a real embedded in their ecosystem. And that's really where I struggled, trying to find it embedding in the ecosystem. And I was sort of coming up with this idea, flushing it out from lots of different businesses, which you've heard, like comms, loyalty, and payments, and etc., and also charity. And then I actually read a book. I don't know if you can see that, called "Doing Good by
Oh,
Doing Good."
yes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Peter. Yeah.
It's, by just an amazing gentleman named Peter Baines. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to meet him because basically this showed that everything I was doing in CSR was wrong. so,
Yeah.
so it wasn't such
Yeah.
a good read, because it was like, okay, you're doing the wrong things, which is, it's not all about, and I don't mean this bad for the charities, but it's not all about the charities. It's about growing the business, and then the charities will get the reward, and actually creating a real value proposition between the charity and the business, which is happening more these days, but it wasn't as much back then. It was more, and I don't mean this as a dirty word, it's going to probably sound that way, but it was more just pure philanthropy, like just giving,
Mm-hmm.
for it. And
Mm-hmm.
Pete's model, and I met Pete, and Pete has also come on board as a founder of Doing Good Rewards. So,
Awesome.
it's
Yeah.
so he's involved as well, and he's a great man. He's created and run his own charity for over 20 years, and he would be the guru of CSR in Australia in my books. So
Mm-hmm.
anyone that's in that space should really talk to Pete. But the model was that it has to be something where there's real value exchange, and the whole ecosystem, everybody wins out of it. So business
Mm.
is actually growing because of what it's doing for charity, not just gifting money, and it's the right thing to do. And the whole model of Doing Good Rewards is really based on that model of, I've had a lot of businesses, as you can allude to there,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly when you do a business, somebody wins a bit more than somebody else. But this
Sure.
ecosystem, really, everybody in the ecosystem wins. If you think about it just very quickly, you and I are shoppers or members of something, whether we work there, or whether we're a customer of, or whether we're a member of something. We are part of that group, so we see that brand all the time, and we save money just in automatic life. We don't have to ask for it. We're just going to save it and support a charity that we select. The
Mm-hmm.
business, the merchant, is getting that feel good factor every time you shop there. So they're doing the same marketing offer, that they would be doing anyway, but without having to add a new system or train staff or do anything different. They're getting people come into the store and actually feel good about the saving instead of getting a saving and forgetting it the second you walk out. You're getting a ping to the phone and you're feeling good about, I saved money, but I supported my favorite charity. So, of course, what happens is you get more repeat spends in that store or that effort because you feel good
Yes.
about it. Keep going
Yeah,
back.
exactly. And
And
so,
the retailers get the social impact figures as well. And then the companies, imagine a brand that you're not thinking of very often, like say Snap Fitness is a client. Imagine when you're not
yep.
at the gym, you really don't think about it very often. But
Hmm.
when you're out and about and you're sort of tapping your card and you're going, hey, Snap Fitness has helped me save this amount of money. And what we do there is you can point the saving to pay the next month's, say, membership bill or the next month's utility bill or you can top up your super, so it can go in different directions. So it's another automated way to pay bills rather than saving straight back into the bank account. And so that business is going to pop up on your phone 2 or 3 times a week, and you just feel good about the business. So you feel good
Yep.
about that brand. And lastly, why we're really doing it is charities are bleeding, and of course, without them having to pay any money, because 100 cents in the dollar of what we collect goes through to the charity. So there's no admin or commission fees out of it. It's going all the way through to the charity. So it's great for charity. So you can see everybody in the ecosystem is winning out of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, I'm interested to know about the mind and mood of, today's marketer in this context. I mean, I've certainly worked in organizations where CSR was, let's say, Brockovich-y. Let's say, we're terribly sorry your children glow in the dark. Would you like a new football field in the community? Um, and, I'm kind of thinking that we kind of should be moving on from that. But also, are you seeing marketers place a value on this contribution in terms of the equity that they drive in their own brands by participating in this program?
Yeah, well, I think that's where the whole talk about today is about conscious consumerism. And so,
Correct.
the reality is that um, probably in the past it wasn't as great. It was more about just the pure profit, and the marketer side was just marketing for more business, and the other side was just philanthropy or gifting to charity because it was seen as the right thing to be doing. But I think there is a big change going on in the sense that the younger generation, which I love for the future, and my kids are the same. They all volunteer for charities, and they tell me things about, don't buy this brand, dad, buy this brand because of this. So I think the younger generation is going to drive marketers to make conscious consumerism is going to drive the change in marketers, making sure that being standing out for social impact and actually doing the
Mm.
right thing is a driver to marketing, because we're in good hands in the future, Scotty. The younger generation, I believe, are going to change the way companies market, because in the future, I don't think people are going to either buy from or work for an organization that isn't having a social impact. And that is part of
Mm.
conscious consumerism, although it's a lot broader than that when we start talking about it, but that's the basis of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because
Well, it
we're
depends
starting
on
to see.
depends on what you see conscious consumerism is. I mean, to me,
Okay,
it's
let's go there. In
yeah,
fact, let's start there.
yeah. To me, it's just a choice. So
Hmm.
it is like the old. If you go back to marketing 101, if you're talking about marketing, the 4 Ps: product, price, place, promotion. So I think there's now another major element, which is the effect, people taking into account the effect of the ethical, the social, the environmental effect on our purchases and what they're doing in those spaces. And I think, as I
Hmm.
said, the good thing for me is that when you see the stats, and I can roll out some stats or whatever, but when you see the stats, the younger generation, the Gen Zs, the millennials, they are making it part of their choice about whether they purchase a product or a service. That is now more than so it should be the fifth. Well, it's not a P, is it? It's choice. It's conscious consumerism, but it's really going to change.
Preference.
Preference. There you go. I love it. There you go. There you go. You can coin that and use that. So there you go. The five Ps. But I think you're right. The preference or the choice is that people are looking at, the organization, the product, the service. What is it ethical? Is it having an environmental impact? Is it, do they have the right supply chains? What can they do about it? So it's starting, and it's just amazing, I think, for the future and what it's going to be. So I mean, to me, that's what conscious consumerism is: making adding that, let's call it your fifth P, adding a preference or a choice into it. I mean, what does it mean to you? I mean,
Well, I think, I'm always curious about these things because um, we're seeing it now, and we see it every year, frankly. You know, the bright lights of, marketing popularity, right? So this year, I'm convinced that I could be an innocent bystander in my life, and AI will do it all for me.
yeah, well,
But, but we are very bright lights, bright lights. So I'll hear things like conscious consumerism and go, yeah, but where's the rubber really hit the road, and what's truly happening here?
yep,
And how do you break free of, for instance, there's people out there taking solid advantage right now of inflation from a retailer point of view. And, consumers aren't stupid. And, we see there's a lot of, at the same time, those very same retailers will purport to do good in the community. Or, we're looking after the environment by enforcing you to pay for bags. Okay. Um, I'm pretty sure we're not paying costs for those bags, incidentally. But
and
I, yeah, I think it's very easy for the consumer to be cynical. And in Australia, we had the massive Royal Commission around Red Cross. That's been blissfully ignored in many ways, I think, around the fundraising efforts.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
critical. Like, we've painted a picture and perception about the money getting to the cause,
yeah,
about, you being fair income as a retailer in terms of supporting it, or a service provider in terms of supporting it,
yeah,
and making it more meaningful. So for me, when people can, lay finger on how much conscious consumerism moves the needle,
mm,
you'll get bigger investments into this pool and bigger discounts being offered to customers and bigger contributions therefore being made to these charities. What is the likelihood of that reality hitting, or are retailers likely to be treating this as a piecemeal, doesn't cost us much, whatever, knock yourselves out if you feel good, or are there people seriously trying to drive corporate social responsibility programs through a program like this, as they should?
there are, and the numbers are. Look, I think for retailers and whatever product and service, they're going to get to the Kodak moment in the future. Like, so, you know, if they don't do something, they could easily go by the wayside. So even in
Hmm.
Australia, the stats are bigger in America. So even in Australia, last year's study or reports on this showed that over 27% of Aussies already actively switch brands to because of a company with social impact or that aligned with its values versus one that didn't. I mean, that's 1 in 4 already. So, and
Hmm.
it's only growing. The numbers are bigger with the Gen Zs and the millennials. That's just across the whole population. And like the same result showed that 54% of those same people are going to switch brands in the future based on social impact, or so they're a brand aligning with their values. I mean, that's half the buying population. So in the
Yeah.
future, so you think of this. You think if people don't get into this, because I think what you're alluding to is that it has been a little bit of a, oh, it's a nice to have out there, but it's not
Yes.
anything that had real effect in the past. But
Yep.
it's coming fast. It's probably not coming as fast as AI, but it's coming fast. That certainly the change is big, and 3/4 of us actually believe that it's up to corporates to actually be doing something more about it. It shouldn't all be left to government, and it shouldn't all be left to ourselves to do it, the individual people. That corporates should be taking active involvement. So that's 3/4 of us believe that they want to see, the people we're buying from, the corporates we're working with, actually taking an involvement. So you can imagine, a growth like that, a movement like that. If you don't take action, it's a bit the Kodak moment. You're going to sort of go by the wayside because don't need cameras anymore because they're all in phones. So And look, it's even bigger in the US. I know mainly we're talking to an Australian market here, but even look, I won't go through all the stats, but say the millennials, so I keep talking about
Yep.
91% of millennials in last year's report have said that they will switch brands based on social impact. 91%. And you can think that the Gen Zs and millennials in the next 10 years, they're going to become the majority of our buying force. So,
Oh,
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And I
it's
think I
it's
think the
moving.
consumer, I can see why the consumer would value it, but I think there's an if and only if proposition there.
Yeah,
And that is the extent to which, if you're in the manufacturing of products and you're relying on retail networks, as a for instance, we're seeing so many categories in a race to the bottom. We're seeing so much category myopia where we discuss things around the product that are of little to no meaning to the consumer.
mm,
And to me, this is a great way to differentiate and retain margin at a time. If I look at laundry detergents and so forth. So, as an example, I don't know how many Mrs. Smiths, Mrs. Browns, or Mr. Joneses know anything about enzymes. I really don't. So I don't understand. And then you see categories like that getting into price point race to the bottom.
yeah,
We have to find other ways to add value that are credible and meaningful, that aren't about getting in that race to the bottom from a pricing point of view.
yeah,
And I would expect that the average marketer is cluey enough to this to realize that, particularly if you're in a vanilla category, if you're selling electricity, you're selling gas, you might be a big behemoth and a generator and retailer of energy and gas, but no one cares about your energy or your electricity or your gas. No one gives a flying shit. So how is it that we can help people care about your brand? Why would they opt for your brand over and above price?
yeah,
And category after category, particularly in a duopolistic and monopolistic market like Australia, we're seeing more and more categories in that race to the bottom on margin, not doing anything meaningful, not creating meaningful relationships with the end consumer.
yeah,
And if we think about fast-moving consumer goods, effectively, you know, placing themselves on the figurative crucifix of life, otherwise called a grocery shelf. So I think, there's a lot of reasons for people to get off the couch here,
yeah,
and not in a tokenistic way, in
yeah,
a meaningful way, to formulate partnerships with, I know the corporate support that someone like a food bank gets is great, but it could be a whole lot better too. I mean, it is great support. There are so many manufacturers that get around food bank from a food provision point of view, and there's so many companies that get around funding initiatives to stop hunger in this country. And it's encouraging, but there's more people who could be doing more. And I think that's just one example. I think that organisation, you're absolutely right. People want to buy from people who care.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and align with their values. And there is a look. We're always going to have the price point issue. Certainly, although I would, you know, the movement of this with the struggle that we're all having with the cost of living crisis that's going on is a little bit difficult to I guess rely on stats. But certainly, last year's report from Nielsen showed that 52% of Aussies were willing to pay a bit more for a brand or a product or a service that aligned with their social values. And again,
Yep.
if we just for the states, it's even bigger. And like the states and Canada, last year's National Retail Federation report showed that 70% of the US and Canadian, consumers were willing to pay a bit more. Now that we have to balance a little bit with, the cost of living crisis, but it is important for businesses to know that, but without going the fully fledged way. Like we can get into a whole argument because I love, say, B Corp, which I'm not
Mm.
sure most of the audience know too much about B Corp, but it's just an amazing, category to have where it really does look at a whole range of different factors with your business. And to get B Corp status is amazing, and
Mm.
it is really, great value to your business. Although, look, not all businesses can jump through that many hoops to get it straight away. So it's more a process, and we certainly want businesses to do the right thing and stand out for social impact even in a small way, rather than having to go the whole way at the start and then be gradually taken along on the journey to take it from the easiest way to be involved to the next stage, to the next stage, to full supply chain and etc., which is the B Corp model, which I love. But
Mm.
it doesn't always have to be more expensive, because that's one of the arguments about the, I guess, the scenario is that to have a social impact, well, we have to spend more, so there's more cost or there's more effort, etc. What we want to do is come up with clever ways, like, and obviously I'm a bit biased towards the doing good model, but
Mm-hmm.
there's many others as well, where we can come up with clever ways where it doesn't have to cost more. You don't have to have a more expensive product, even though people are willing to pay a bit more. There's other
Mm-hmm.
ways to do it so that you can stand out for social impact, even in this much of a way. Let's get people all on the journey and started in a step up way so they can get going in a turnkey, turn it on, just be involved and do something for social impact, rather than go, it's all too hard or it's too expensive. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
something where the business does something but gets rewarded as well. And then gradually, as more business kicks in, they can take the little steps up to be more and more involved. Because, as I said to you, I think conscious consumerism is going to drive massive change in the future. And yeah, if you don't do it, you're going to fall by the wayside.
Okay, so as a retailer that participates in this program, I can say that any customer of Doing Good Rewards will get a discount from which they can choose their contribution financially or proportionally to contribute to the charity of their choice. Let's invert that for a moment. If if I'm a brand, I want to appeal to the things that matter most to people. So yes, of course they could learn what people have self-selected, but actually they could acquire customers if they knew more. So what we know of giving is that there's two fundamental bases. There's
Mm.
people with the economic capacity,
Yep.
and there's people with a connection to the cause,
Yep.
right? So connections to causes are rather easy depending upon the cause you're talking about. But in certainly in our data sets, if we wanted to go after a diabetes foundation fundraiser, I could tell you precisely where diabetes sufferers are around the country. And a retailer could boost contributions to diabetes in order to acquire those types of customers.
Yeah.
Is that the sort of thing you've seen, or did I just invent that for you in a nice
No,
and
no,
melody
no.
voice?
That's no. Well, you're a data geek, as you say. So that is amazing. So we, in this model, there's a lot of data, because obviously it's .NET, Microsoft Azure. So there's a lot of data analytics built into it. But really, what our plan for the future is that, and I'll go back to the retailer in a sec, because I'll just let you know that a retailer can be a customer as well, or a client as
Mm-hmm.
well, because we're working with some retailers, and we haven't started one yet, but we're working with some retailers where they will have their own programs, so their own shoppers will be getting their benefits and choose from their charities in store or online from that brand only. So it's like your
Yep.
own loyalty program inside a retailer. And there's some retailers that want to keep it just as their own program, and there's others that we're talking to that are looking to have it where their shoppers will have their own VIP program and they get their own benefits in store, but also they can see all the non-competing brands in the product set. So, like, let's say you're a white goods store and you don't want to see any other white goods in your mix, but it's okay for people to buy movie vouchers or buy
Yep.
discount at the local hairdresser, or whatever. And if they want, those savings can actually go back into the store's gallery account, so that money can be spent back in store. So it's a way to drive
Mm.
more business as well as supporting charity. So that's retailers can have their, as well as driving new business, they can have their own programs as well for their own shoppers and grow their own database that way. But just to go back to the data analytics, which is your geeky thing, because I know you love the data analytics. So
Well, I just don't know how one does commercial growth without information, but that's just
yeah,
me.
no, information is key. Information is key. But look, because we want, we're a social enterprise and we want more activity to happen. That data analytics we will be watching, and we will supply to any partners in the ecosystem where we see crossover of the data analytics. So in your sense, it might be a retailer and a charity, or it could be a corporate and a not-for-profit, or it could be. So if there's any crossover there, in the future we'll be supplying that data free to those partners, because in essence for us what that means is if those partners are working together and in your terms doing more promotions together, and promotions aren't just another offer, it can be lots of different ways of doing promotions, but um, you know if a promotion is happening, then there's more usage, which means more usage automatically means more money to charity. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
our dream, that basically everybody in their everyday shopping is supporting charities in need. And I know this isn't the aim of the chat, because we'll get back to conscious consumerism, but we believe that when people automatically get involved in supporting their favorite charities and causes, and they hear more about it rather than giving money and maybe not reading the big email that comes out that tells you the annual report, we've done this, etc., etc.
Yep.
But they're getting, and this is my comms background, they're getting 30, 40-second grabs every month or 2 months on a little video on what's going on, and they get to see the thermometer of the money. We then want to step them up so that they have opportunities to be more involved in campaigns of the year, or doing different things, right up to what we call shared experiences. Like, I'm about to go off next week on a charity bike ride in Thailand, supporting these the amazing Hands Across the Water charity.
Yes.
And we've got about 45, 50 riders on that. And I think we're going to raise, a couple of hundred or 200, 250,000. And it changes people's lives. But what I mean is that people can easily get involved and get a reward, first savings and giving to charity. But then once they know more about it, we feel that people will take the advantage to, a little bit like I was talking about the step up to B Corp, but an average person can step up and add little bits of extra of their involvement with a charity, whether that's a person or a business, right up to actually, going and seeing the effect and volunteering time. And that will
Mm-hmm.
help charities no end to have more people actively involved and more people supporting. And honestly, in the end, it's us that win out of it, because we get such an emotional win out of putting back and actually seeing other people's lives be changed. It is
Yeah.
unbelievable, Scotty. It's just incredible. And
And the,
you know,
and yeah, I think the reason I asked you about multiple contributions too is that, you know, I've been a massive advocate, particularly in this country, for grassroots organised sport to get, supported in promotional mechanic, like in ways that, I've signed up to an electricity company, and as a result, that electricity company gives me a bonus for my sporting club.
yeah,
There's a couple of, fun facts around organised sport for marketers out there. One of them is that people who do organised sport tend to be further up the socio-economic chain.
mm, mm,
The support from parents around organised sport, particularly children's organised sport, is diminishing at a great rate of knots. I
yeah.
used to joke in an old sporting club that I was in that we'd be lucky if the nanny slowed down the 5 Series as they pushed the kid out of the car. Um,
The
but
the babysitting service. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, and most of these sporting groups are resigned to lining up for the next sausage sizzle at Bunnings. It's just, there's got to be better ways to raise money for our clubs, to get the facilities, to bring down participation fees, and ultimately to increase participation in lower socioeconomic areas or lower levels of social inclusion, to use a political rant of angle on that. But, I think there's so much opportunity just around that, plus the charity, and you can start making meaningful contributions. This is where organisations need to differentiate on factors that matter to people. And I can really see some massive benefits, not just from a customer acquisition perspective, but, customer retention particularly. I see such a great deal of merit in that. It is, the sporting club thing is something I've tried to push with a number of entities over the years.
No, I'm with you on the sporting clubs, and certainly, as you alluded to before, with the not-for-profits, we can have what's called a community donation. But we have on our radar, although we just have got that much going on, we haven't had time to go into that area yet. But we do plan to talk to the ASF, the Australian Sports Foundation, because they're the only body that is able to do tax deductions for sporting organisations. So to work with them to make it easier for grassroots sporting clubs to be able to be registered on the ASF, so that
Yes.
those
Okay.
donations that we're making, instead of being just a community donation and therefore not being able to do a tax deduction, if we can get them registered on the ASF, look, we haven't tested it yet, but we believe if we can make that mechanism easier, then we can donate through the ASF to the local club and it can be a tax deduction. And therefore, we as a charity can actually organise the tax deduction summary at the end of the tax year each year. So we would love to do that because there's so many organisations that I guess, can you see that T-shirt? I'm not sure, support local community. Like
Yep.
we really believe in that mechanism of, local people shopping locally, supporting local charities or local community ventures, and it all, staying in that local community as far as that's concerned. And there's plenty of brands, different ones that we're talking to, like real estate agents, or I guess, that normally sponsor those clubs. You think about
Yes.
they normally sponsor clubs, and we want to give them reward back so that their brand, let's say you're sponsoring a club, but people buy or rent a house from that real estate agent, and then they're given a program under that brand, and they're shopping locally, supporting locally, and they keep seeing that brand pop up on their phone all the time. So they're actually known for it, rather than just giving $1,000 sponsorship to the club and nobody really knows what they do with it or anything happens. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, that plays to the point that I think Michelle's just raising. Transparency is a critical factor. Some decisions should be made more public and less often behind closed boardroom doors. It needs to be more inclusive of the communities that are supposed to be receiving the support.
yeah,
Thoughts
totally
on that?
agree. Totally agree, Michelle. And that's the good thing about it's not just our program. Like anything where conscious consumerism is going to drive this change, effectively, what you want with that is that there's no greenwashing, there's no hidden, etc. It's all about being open and people understanding what's going on with the money and what's being used for. Which I think the communications factor of ours or any program is really critical to actually keep people up to date with, how much money, what the money's doing, etc. And from my old comms days, and this is embarrassing that we have this short of attention spans, but we've learnt that 30, 40-second grabs or 30, 40-second videos is about the length of time that people want to get an update for. We certainly put in the videos little links so that you can click on it and go and read more information if you're interested. But we know that people's attention span is short, so we want to keep them updated. We keep them updated in a way that they're going to be interested and stay in touch with it, not sort of get a big email and never read the report. Just sort of park it and never look at it. So,
Yeah.
agreement. All of those, just open, transparent communication. Continuous.
And I mentioned to you in a private chat there. Have you spoken to ADF or not?
No, have not. No.
See, there's a good, what a great combination. So, and Aaron, if you ever do watch this, I am talking to you again about this. Alcohol and Drug Foundation is responsible for all things to reduce alcohol and drug. One of their programs, an awesome program they've got, is the Good Sports program. Infiltrates about 10,000 sporting clubs, and it is fundamentally about the responsible service of alcohol and alcohol consumption in sporting clubs. And I couldn't think of a better way to get into sporting clubs than ADF and the Good Sports program, because they have a social impact role around, particularly in regional Australia, and I imagine it's the same in the US. Although you guys need to catch up, you don't drink anywhere near as much as we do. But I think the ability to contribute to your own sporting club, your kids' sporting club, while you're doing everyday shopping, and the efforts of ADF in that. I mean, that's a beautiful catch-22 where you're doing both, right? So, Aaron, expect a call.
Look, there's so many. Look, and that's a great option as far as that's concerned. But there's so many great opportunities. It is just, and really getting back to the topic of the talk. We truly think that that's great as far as the foundation, but the effect that those businesses that are related, the rewards they get out of it, and therefore conscious consumerism driving more involvement with those good programs, and
Mm.
being known for the program, so that it's not just there and you don't see it, but how we make sure people see it, every day of their life. So, and for us, we're doing it via normal shopping, but there's other mechanisms as well. But the thing is, you want to know and feel the effect of it, not just, oh, it's off in the background and it's a good thing, but we don't really know or understand what goes on. So
Well, that's
Michelle's,
just it, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, I think for those of you that are OS listening to this call, particularly Americans, thank you, and welcome, Lisa. You guys on the other side of the planet where things are upside down, I imagine. I guess, disaster recovery here is a big thing, and what we had here in Australia during massive bushfire season. I believe that was the start of 2020. It was the year of years, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah,
And we had this enormous campaign that was run, and millions of dollars raised for victims of the bushfires here. It was crazy. But there was this massive inquiry because so much of that money didn't eventually go to the cause. And, to me, that's been very damaging for the charity sector. But also shows that if there is a way to directly contribute to people who are frontline moving the needle in a disaster, and there is now, thanks to Brad and his team, and you can switch that on, that beats the hell out of me turning the television on, watching a politician talk about how wet it is in Lismore. So, not that I'm cynical, folks, at all.
Oh, we wouldn't say that about you, no.
No, never. No, never. On guard, Brad, on guard. But yeah, no, I think it's a great program. Does anyone, any questions from you, guys? I mean, I've seen a few comments here on LinkedIn. It's quite weird, Brad, because you don't actually get them all coming in on this platform. I'm on LinkedIn on the other screen, on the other computer here.
Yeah, okay.
Just to see what's going on, just in case. So, and
guess
we haven't
we're
had
waiting-
anyone step up
well,
and talk.
Yeah, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to raise the importance for those that are involved in this part of the sector, that education plays in the growth of conscious consumerism, because not just education in schools, which is the natural way to think about it. I've got kids and they are learning amazing stuff in schools about, environmental impacts and etc. And that is a great driver, that our younger generation are learning about social impact and about the effect. Because I think if you think about it, another era, another 10 years, and that is all of those kids that are coming through now, it's pretty much key educational facilities that are going on right from primary school through high school and through unis. It is going to make an amazing change. So those stats that I read out before about conscious consumerism and how much it is now, just think what it is going to be when all of these, kids come through into the buying market, etc. But I don't think the education should stop there. It's about, educating people on, and I think Michelle raised it about transparency and that sort of thing. So making sure that we're actually educating the market on, not greenwashing, on where there's real strong effect and strong change about social impact, and making sure people are educated all the time. So we've got to find ways to not, because everyone's busy in their everyday lives, and there's the core issues of we've all got to live and eat and make money and do whatever, but to try and make this a part of it. Actually, I didn't think of it before, but I like your 5P, because I just want to see this embedded in everything that we do, that it's just part of it, right? And so for that, we need continuous education rather than just, waiting and relying on the next generation to come through, even though I think that will drive it. So, yeah. So the education piece and getting, comms pieces or quick grabs or, updates and keeping people involved, I reckon is really, really key. So
I also think there's some credibility to build back here. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and call a spade, Brad. It's very unusual for me to do that. But In a marketplace like this, if we realistically look at it, where we're walking into environments with 50% discounts on products that net of that 50% discount are 20% more expensive than they were last year, there's a lack of credibility to promotional mechanics, right? And equally, you could walk into retailers and they're saying, "Oh, contribute to this or buy this bag and you'll save the environment," and the same retailer is, selling collectibles for kids that ends up being landfill. Like collectible items. I don't know. I think a friend of mine used to call them shit for dickheads. But the collectible pieces of plastic that go in it. There's a lack of credibility here. What I love about this is that the consumer has the power to orientate the giving, and the retailer has the ability to come and play in a very credible way to the things that matter most to their customers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
or
yeah,
retailer and supplier, whatever the
yeah,
brand, let's call
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Without changing too much, because not all of us can be, like you and I, like B1G1, amazing model, but not everyone can afford that sort of contribution, or
Sure.
brands that are entirely set up, like Patagonia. Amazing. I just love what they do, and of course they're an outdoor model, so they want they probably need to stand for that, but they want to as well,
Sure.
and everything they do is all aligned to that, and the whole supply chain and everything they stand out for, it's just amazing. But not all businesses can go all that way, well, not straight away anyway, which is, I guess, what I was talking about, the step up model before, which is, let's find a way for businesses, rather than it all being too hard, because they just
Yeah.
cannot change their whole environment very quickly and just suddenly become a Patagonia or a B1G1 business. It's just too costly and too much effort and too much time. But you can be involved in a I won't even call it a minor way, because when you look at the figures that we're looking at already, it's going to be major impact or major donations to charity, just using the existing marketing offer that you just talked about then, and just being
Hmm.
able to split it or do it in a different way. So businesses can get involved without really changing anything and immediately stand out for social impact. And then we hope that they'll move along that step up track as they're getting more business, as they're growing, and really, eventually become a B Corp, or
Mm.
something along those lines, or the whole model changes. So, it's just, there's so many ways to do it. And we just,
Yeah,
hope
absolutely.
consumerism that we're talking about today, it's not just because it's a tick the box. It's a, hey, we better do this, otherwise we're going to lose this buying market in the future.
Yeah, correct. And like you've said, it's a point of differentiation, and there's so much in it for the retailer. But again, I love this orientation from the consumer. Putting power back in,
Yeah.
to their hands. And God, we've been through a period of time where lots of people reflect on COVID, and one of the things I'd actually say to brand marketers everywhere is what an utter disappointment COVID was from a loss of opportunity for marketers. I've never before seen watertight sphincters at scale like we saw through the pandemic. Like we together, blah, blah, lots of meaningless horse shit that meant nothing for anyone at a time where psychosocial regression was, at an all time. So can you hear that ringing?
No, no ringing.
Oh, that's good. Where psychosocial regression was, at an all-time sort of low, I suppose. People had all this control taken away from them, and there was an opportunity for brands to step up and play a meaningful role, and more meaningful role in people's lives, and it was just lost. It was just lost.
Yeah, look, I agree. And look, businesses are doing it tough at the moment, right? That, it is coming out of COVID, or, obviously a few businesses in the right sectors won well out of that. But most
Hmm.
businesses, and there's been so many collapse of small businesses and people coming out and not surviving. So you got to look, we've got to give business support, because we want them all to grow and therefore to support. But the good thing, and again, it's a bit make me talking like a broken record back to conscious consumerism, is that a lot of people coming through COVID did get a rebalance in their life about what's important, and
Yep.
putting back into the world helping others, whether that's locally, because there's a lot of mental health issues and different things that went on. But, that has even added to the driver of conscious consumerism, that really we do want to support those that are supporting others, whether that's businesses or help each other,
Yep.
etc. So I do, look, COVID was ridiculous, obviously, and horrendous, and so many, terrible things happened during it. But at least it changed people's perspective a little bit about what's important to them in life, and hopefully
Oh, yeah,
it's added that little
absolutely.
bit of accelerator. Like obviously it accelerated e-commerce and online business like you wouldn't believe. Hopefully it's accelerated a little bit this drive to conscious consumerism, because we all realize that it's not just about us, and we do want to help others and put back into the world. It's a lovely thing to come out of it,
Mm.
and I keep saying, and I guess I see it in my kids and all of their generation. I really love what the future is going to be, because they are going to drive a better planet.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the power of this program again is something else. I can imagine that I'm getting sledged. I can imagine that I don't know whether you guys call that sledging. Maybe they're being serious, and but yeah, I think we are at an age, and I can imagine. I know there's some not-for-profits listening in from the US who would love to have a program like this
Well,
because
it'll
of
be
its
in the
turnkey
US soon,
ability.
but we've just got to look. We're in our just in case people haven't heard about it. We probably didn't talk about it. We've been building this. We've put a few $1 million into building the system, but it's only been live in MVP stage since about April last year. So we're just sort of a year old
Hmm.
now, but it's already, yeah, obviously, as you can allude to it, there's a lot of interest. I mean, you've seen it, and
Yes.
a lot of people from all areas wanting to be involved, which is great. So look, the fact that people are engaging with this sort of model is encouraging as well, isn't it? It's an easy way to put back and support the world. So certainly it will be in the US, and we've already had approaches from partners in the US, but of course we just want to stabilize it first, and
Sure.
make sure
Yep.
it all sort of grows in the right way, and then it can work in any country. So yeah.
So, is there a place where people can register interest if they're in markets you're not in yet?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they can go to the website, or I know that after this you'd probably put out my details, etc. But certainly, if you go to doinggoodrewards.com and just
Hmm.
click on whichever sector you're in, whether that's a charity, a retailer, a corporate, or an individual for some
Hmm.
reason, then you can certainly register there, and then my team will get back to you. And certainly, I don't want to promise too much, because we've got a bank of things going on at the moment. So, but we'll certainly always get back to you and put you in the queue to have discussions and bring you on in your sector at the right time, for sure. So
Yeah, great. I mean, I'm just full disclosure. Would love to help Brad and the team do this, and got a few contacts I want to speak to about this because it's just it's not just innovative, but it just makes so much common sense.
well, it's
Not
simple,
just in the
isn't it?
landscape we're in, but what life's like right now. We're racing and racing and racing, and we're getting so much noise. This is a really simple way to ensure that we're making contributions that matter to us without thinking, almost, right? And getting that feedback and corralling the support of others who are around that cause as well, which is, it's an awesome way to go, I think, and so much need for it, Brad. I just, whether it's charities or organised sport or whatever the case may be, there are people out there willing to contribute to entities that are doing things that they believe in. And this just creates a really easy mechanism, not just to make their own contributions, but to promote that to their friends and family.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously I agree, because we've set it up, but I think simple is the word that I pick out of what you use there. like we've got busy lives, and we've got so many other things that we need to pay attention for. So, we've tried to create a simple mechanism, because really it is a set and forget. If you think about it, you can
Yes.
actively, be driving to go, oh, I'm going to look for that shop versus this one. But also, if you like, we're already finding people that were involved in the pilot, and the US probably don't know the areas here, but we're involved in the pilot in Sydney in Australia. And then they might be traveling, and they're on, say, the Gold Coast, and they're tapping their card which they registered for the pilot, and it pings up and says, hey, you've just got a discount at this coffee shop or whatever. We got a nice comment the other day that someone said, oh, I just got this benefit. I didn't even know I was going to get it. So I went back to the same coffee shop, the whole 8 days of my holiday. It was just amazing. So you think for the
Mm-hmm.
business as well, that's like repeat business, because, somebody might have accidentally found it the first time, but then they go, that is cool. And, they keep going back, because it's, you're a geek, right? I'm a geek. It's that dopamine hit to the brain. You actually get that warm and fuzzy feeling of doing it. So we wanted to create something that was simple, so that you could just set and forget it, and it would just work for you, or you can really actively, look for and buy from the organizations that are on the platform, and we're getting growth in those organizations progressively. So
Yeah.
keep it simple, stupid is probably the, I'm pretty, people say it's a good model, and it is, but I think the simplicity of it is the key.
Yeah, and I'm just to ensure that I've got this right as well, going forward at least, if not now, will a an organisation, let's say an organisation, or the AFL would be one of them, the Australian Football League would be one of them, where there's a lot of support for charities like breast cancer.
Yep.
Are they able to ratchet up their contributions during a period of time where breast cancer fundraising is a focus?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So both at a corporate and an individual level. So an individual can, it's a real time system. So what you can do is, let's say you set your contribution at 10% of whatever you save goes to your favorite charity. There might be, like, end of financial year, um,
Mm-hmm.
where it's, that you can, we go out with a campaign and say, hey, it's, 2 weeks to go to end of financial year. Any contribution you make now will be in your tax return, your tax receipt the first week of July. So
Mm-hmm.
people might go, oh, well, it's not too long and I'll be getting that back. So I might as well ramp up my shopping from 10% to 100% of my, you could put it at 100% of my saving goes to charity, knowing that
Yeah.
you're about to get it back. But also a corporate can actually, do match donations, or do a contribution plan or something. So we're working with some charities where they're going to do it as a thank you after their campaign. So let's say you have a campaign of the year, which might be, this is our week when we majorly fundraise, but at the end of it, actually send out a thank you to all the donors and say, thank you so much for donating. It's been amazing. We want to thank you with a program where you'll get to save money to help with your cost of living for the whole year. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, while you're doing that, you'll automatically be, a little bit of that will automatically be supporting us throughout the whole year. So thank you so much. In those programs, though, it's only the one charity that's in there. It's not like the person that gets that program gets a choice of many charities. But if they're already supporting that charity anyway, then they're more likely to be happy that it's just that charity inside that program. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
no,
like the idea. Let me run this example by you because it's kind of near and dear. I'm going to put a link in the post, which will hopefully hit all channels. Not a shameless plug, it isn't, I promise. But my local baseball club, the Sandringham Baseball Club in Melbourne, we have a teal weekend. So our uniform tops are all teal, and people wear teal ribbons to raise money for ovarian cancer every year.
good on
You
you.
know, and for that club, we could ratchet up contributions from people for a period of time. Is that a yes on the roadmap, or is it a now?
Yes.
Is it a
No, no, you can. Yeah, people can do it. People can already do that.
fantastic?
They've got control of their own uh, contribution slash saving amount. So if you think of 100, it's a little sliding scale of 100%.
Hmm.
We make sure people at least give 10% because that's what we're in it for, to get money for charity. So when people make a saving, they've got to give up at least 10% of their saving to charity, but they can
Hmm.
move that bar anywhere from 10% up to 100%. And it just splits so that part of it, whatever they decide, goes back to them and the other part goes to the charity. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. That's really awesome. I'm surprised we haven't had a lot of interactive questions. I'll talk to some of the regulars here and find out why they didn't pop up on StreamYard.
No, that's okay.
Um,
I've probably talked their ear off, which is fine. So
well, no,
it's
we usually, it's an interesting thing, and starting to learn the difference of mediums. And a lot of you guys, Tom and Hayden and Lexi and Michelle, people who've been in my rooms before. Something like this, I feel needs to be visual. So, in the case that whereas we're running an audio room on Sunday, but there's a bit of tabooness to the topic, so it probably works. There's a little bit more anonymity in audio only. But for programs like this, I really feel like that we need video, but the guys are. I guess we, as a community, are learning what we can do with this medium. They can pop up on stage, they can pop up and be on video, they can pop up and have an audio conversation, but we're all kind of fresh at it.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been great. So,
Yeah. Look, Scotty, another time, I wanted this chat to be about conscious consumerism rather than doing good rewards, because it doesn't matter whether it's with us or whatever anyone does. The driver is that, again, the Kodak moment. I feel like if businesses don't get involved in putting back into the world, then they are going to fall by the wayside just because
oh, I
of that
agree.
Gen Z millennial. And that's the real driver out of it. Not, whether you use a platform like ours or however you do it, but just that, be warned, the stats are, going through the roof, and, you need to stand out for social impact in some way. Now, it doesn't have to be a full-on B Corp, because, as I said, I'm making them sound bad. I don't mean bad. They're an amazing organization, but it's just that there's quite a lot of effort that you need to get B Corp accreditation. And we
Yep.
don't want people to stop and not do anything because it's too hard. We'd rather them take a step and get onto the journey and stand out for social impact, because it's going to help their business. The future generation, if you stand out, they will buy from you and they will work from you. It's just incredible. The stat and the driver is huge.
So, I agree, and I think yes, we want to talk about conscious consumerism as a trend. I think for me, I wanted the guys, particularly the US guys who come and join our show, which is a bit of a majority of our audience, generally on audio at least, just to hear the concept, because it's so innovative and it hasn't been done before. But on the theme of conscious consumerism, I think I'd like to show up with some serious statistics and some serious realities around consumers and their contributions. So really, just very quickly, I think some of you guys have heard me talk about power distance relationships in terms of what we believe about ourselves and our ability to contribute to the world. We've seen this over and over again for good causes or concerns about society, and people not putting their money where their mouth is in terms of their behaviour or their contributions. And that factor, called power distance, which means nothing I do matters or everything I do matters, so the two polarities of that, is an enormous factor in whether people participate in these programs, whether they know that they can move the needle, whether what they do is really making a contribution. So I'd absolutely encourage us to come back and have that conversation,
Yeah.
and do so with a few stats and put this one on again, and stuff like that. But because I think you're absolutely right. I think it is the age. And look, some of the things that kind of, it's not, I'm not cynical about conscious consumerism. I'm not cynical about AI. I'm cynical about the fanfare that's generally followed with nothing.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you, and I think you raised it a few times that in the past there's been a lot of talk about it, but you haven't seen the real change, that's happened, and that's why the new generation that's coming through is starting to drive it.
Yep.
But it's coming quicker than people think. So it's not something that's going to take 30 years. It's coming quicker, but the negative to it is that the older experiences are, oh, we did that and nobody really changed. They didn't give, in the past when programs like people voluntarily give their points to charity, or, it's not automated, it's not whatever. So they just didn't do it because people, don't take the action. Whenever you have to take the action to do it, you sometimes do, you sometimes do, or in tech terms, there's a break point where it will happen or it won't happen. So, what we want to do is make sure that people don't take that power distance relationship that you're talking about and do nothing because the distance. Just be a little part of something a lot bigger. Just take some action, and then you are going to be a part of something much bigger. It's amazing how the numbers multiply. It's a bit of a snowball sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just sort of, starts rolling, starts, just getting bigger and bigger. But we all can do just this much, and we will be part of something that's amazing. So, just take an action to start, and then you'll be part of something that's a lot bigger.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think, it's we need to fundamentally think or shift the needle on how we think about, what really matters to consumers, and what the Let's Grow show is about challenging conventional thinking. I'll give you a quick point in case I had an argument with a CMO probably 8 years ago, and I was talking about doing things in grassroots sport, and he said, "We've already done that. We've actually sponsored as a professional football team." And I went, "It's different. That's not the same thing. It's like, it's not their kids. It's some guy getting paid $1 million a year to play football. It's a different thing." But we do often say, "Oh, I've done that before. It didn't work, done that." And often it's not about the space you tried to play in, but it's how you played. And I think that's what I'd like to come back and talk about some more too, because it's that credibility, transparency. We've got charities in Australia like Love Your Sister, where Sammy doesn't take any money for operations from the money he raises. That's the sort of credibility that people will get behind, where that money's going to, to that charity all the time. So, awesome, Brad. Thanks very much for coming on, and we will loop around and get a bit more technical, kids. So, don't worry about that. Really appreciate your time, mate. And I know you're busy, and it was just great to get on and hear more about the story. And I know we would talk about conscious consumerism a little bit more, but I think it would be remiss of us to miss the innovation that Doing Good Rewards has brought to this space. And so respectfully wanted to give that the time it deserves. So thanks everyone for listening. I'm watching you on 400 different screens. It's all it's all happening. And I'll catch you tomorrow. In fact, shameless plug, 2 shows this week. Tomorrow I have Jeff Gamajimi, and Jeff, I said it right, coming in tomorrow for to talk about wearable AI devices actually that will customize your health experience in the future. And then on Sunday, we are talking about the things you don't talk about. It's called The Sound of Silence, and it is effectively a show where we not just discuss the noisy minorities in our society, but talk about the things that we don't share. But we have a special guest just flown in for the last minute, all the way from Houston, Texas, not wearing a 10-gallon hat, is Kenny. Got your camera on, Kenny?
No, I don't have my makeup on today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's hard too with that beard. You had anything to say, mate? Because we're just about to wrap this up.
Well, I really enjoyed today's conversation, and sorry that I came in so late.
Yeah, we will. There's D-Mark. There's points against you for that, mate. Because you can make it up tomorrow. Yeah, thanks for joining us. All right, Kenny. Well, I will wrap it up unless you had a question for Brad.
Just keep up the good work.
Yeah, cool. And I know you've got questions of me, which is why, Scott, why? So it's the same question all the time. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and join us tomorrow and Sunday on the Let's Grow Show. Cheers.
Thanks, Scotty, for the invite.